protein shake already. Yeah, I actually already did the workout part, and this is me recording it, the day intro afterwards. So, good morning. But today is ab day, and it was pretty good. Ab days are pretty simple, especially since I went to the fitness center, since there's not a lot of equipment to use. Doing the basics is the most effective. Now,
is the pump.
Doing the basics, more often than not, is what keeps you in shape and fit, which is why I like doing them.
It doesn't matter!
There's also a lot of cardio involved with that too. And then I shaved because my baby face needs to be strong and proud. But
piece of shit.
More importantly, Lord of the Rings. Anyway. Today, like I said, it was ab day, which was a lot of fun. And then later on today, probably do a little bit of shopping. Not for much. Just a little bit more Halloween decorations. I wanted to actually go for lights because we're getting into the Halloween season, unfortunately, because it's my favorite time of year. And I really want to get my Halloween lighting proper. Now, this is what I said in the other video. The reason why I put the one skull back, even though they were pretty cheap, is none of them had the Halloween color to them. They were just kind of colored skulls, which would be fine in theory, but Halloween has a certain aura and lighting to it that I really want to embrace. So I'm going to work on that a little bit today. Like I said, we're getting to the end of the Halloween season, so some stuff should hopefully be on clearance, which is when the stuff actually starts really selling out. But that's neither here nor there. And when it comes to my nightly horror film, I don't work today, so I might actually watch that now before I go and grab some decorations, because I do have YA ministry today, and obviously that goes until around, I can go around until like 9 o'clock, and there's not many more 1-hour horror movies out there that I can watch. So today, definitely going to be watching a horror movie in the afternoon just to get done. Well, not just to get done, because obviously I love horror films. I want to enjoy as many as I can before the season's over. So let me finish this protein drink. Also going to do a little bit of modeling practice. Don't worry about that. That's just something I do for fun, especially since it's another reason I shaved my beard off. And then, yeah, just chill for a little bit and just also read read some of the book I've been reading for Halloween, which is Hell House by Richard Matheson, writer of I Am Legend. Both really good books, because I watched The Legend of Hell House the other day, and I really wanted to read the book it is based on. So far, the book's really good, and I loved the movie. It's a double home run. Anyways, guys, like I said, got to finish this protein shake, and then we're going to watch a movie and then enjoy our day. I'll catch you guys after the gym.
It is still Halloween time, so I figured I would talk about horror YouTube channels. Now, when I say that, I'm not talking about, scary cam videos or scary story YouTubers. I'm talking about horror YouTube channels that discuss horror films, because, this is a huge channel that is very much into movies, cinema, things like that, even though I do love those other types of horror channels, but I want to kind of stay focused on films for now. Now, one of the first horror YouTubers that got me into horror is Cinemassacre. Now, most people know Cinemassacre by the Angry Video Game Nerd, which is what he's known for, mostly. But he used to do a horror series called Monster Madness, and I remember I watched the 2007 one, The History of Horror, and that was basically my stepping stone into loving horror cinema. Now, before that, I had already seen The Lost Boys, which is my favorite movie of all time, but going through the whole history of it, from the 20s up until, well, at that point, the modern day, I thought it was a really great look into it, and it made me want to see more and more horror films, not just from like the modern day or the 80s, but also going back to the silent era. I do have to give James Rolfe a lot of credit for my love of silent films because of his discussing of, The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, Nosferatu, and, The Phantom of the Opera. Following him, of course, is Cool Duder. He's more of a movie collector than just a, horror YouTube channel, but he focuses a lot on horror movies, like horror and cult films. He has this one YouTube video, his favorite horror and cult films. This is when he still was living in Maryland, I think. And that's where I started getting my interest into more cult movies, not so much just the classics, but the obscure underground shot on home video movies that I probably wouldn't have even considered looking up if I didn't just one day stumble upon his YouTube channel. So I gotta give Cool Duder, or did he change his name to Sean C. Phillips on YouTube? I don't remember. I think it's still Cool Duder, but he's a director now, Sean C. Phillips, and he makes charming films, I'm not gonna lie. This one's a little bit biased because I am friends with the people who run the YouTube channel. They're called Sledgehammer Horror, and they're a lovely couple. They're very charming, and they discuss horror films kind of like you are sitting down with two friends discussing a movie, which is kind of how I want this channel to feel like. And it's just kind of comforting to watch because they're not that intense. There's not a lot of frantic editing. It's just the two of them talking about a movie. They also post a lot on TikTok and Instagram, but their YouTube channel, where they interview horror actors, independent horror actors, mind you, is such fun to watch. I was actually on one of their episodes. Like I said, there's a bias here, and I talked about Phantom of the Megaplex, which kind of, I think, started my interest in horror. But definitely give them a check out because they are a great YouTube channel. The last one I want to bring up real quick is AVA Pop Culture. I'm still new to his channel, so I'm still watching through his vids, but he is just another laid-back dude, and honestly, he seems like a guy I could have a beer with and just discuss movies. Even though I don't drink. Watching a movie called Zombies of Mora Tau. Probably butchered that pronunciation. But it's directed by the guy who directed The Giant Claw, which is one of my favorite giant monster movies. And he also made a movie I watched last night called Creature with the Atom Brain, which I actually really enjoyed. So, the hopes are relatively high. On the curve, of course. Okay, we are going decoration hunting again, and the first thing I went to was the Home Depot. Got some Halloween lights, and these were way longer than I was expecting. That's what she said. And it was nice to see that my homie here knew that it was always important to stretch out your hips. But after that, I snuck over to Five Below to grab this bad boy because it flickered, and honestly, it actually does look pretty cool. The camera, though, just doesn't do it justice. I also picked up this guy. He's pretty cool. He's like that 12 foot tall skeleton thing, but 3 foot. He has a vibe. Because these videos no longer have continuity anymore, I am shooting my end of day video in the middle of the day before I actually do anything else. So what I want to talk about, obviously I want to talk about a reflection of the VHS movies. Now, I haven't seen VHS Halloween yet, but my other video inspired me to talk about them a little bit because I swear by all accounts we're being watched or being stalked regularly, my friends, because after I made that video last week and then I brought up VHS, I saw that VHS 85 and beyond were on sale, so I picked them up. Now, I do have VHS 2 as well as the first one, but I can't find my first one anywhere, so. And it's a shame too, because I actually really enjoy the first 2 VHS films. Now, here's the thing. I can't, off the top of my head, say what the titles of these segments are that I really like. But I can at least describe them and the ones that I like the most. And the one thing I want to talk about with the VHS films is, I think one issue that I've had with them as they've continued is they started being more focused on splatter
as opposed to being creepy. Now, here's the thing. There's nothing wrong with a good splatter film. I like splatter films. I've seen Bad Taste. I've seen Dead Alive. I've seen a bunch of trauma films. Those are all a bunch of splatter flicks. So making splatter films is not my issue. But the thing that I really like about found footage is how it can be atmospheric and creepy. And a lot of them kind of drifted away from that and became more just gore films. And that can work in a found footage setting, obviously, but it's just a shame that they've drifted away so much from the like, here's the thing, it didn't always work, obviously, but they drifted away from segments that could be genuinely creepy to being more gore filled. And that really is unfortunate, because the thing I liked about the first VHS is that it did have more segments that were just kind of unnerving. The first VHS actually has what I would probably say is my favorite segment. Again, I can't remember what the title of it's actually called. I know it's a date. I think it's like 10/31. I just forget the year. 10/31/85 or something like that. And it's the one where they're in a haunted house. And I thought it was a lot of fun. It was genuinely creepy. And it was a good time. That's the type of stuff I liked. And even when they had a little bit more gore in VHS 2 with Safe Haven, it still balanced out being disturbing and creepy with being also pretty bloody with how the finale works. And like I said in the first one, Ty West, he did the one where this guy and his wife are on vacation and they stop at a hotel and someone breaks into their hotel and they start screwing with them, and then there's a big reveal at the end. And it's minimal, but it works. And one of the segments from the first one, Siren, was so popular that it got its own actual feature film. It wasn't in the found footage style when they made the film, but the fact that it got its own isolated film is actually pretty wild. Even VHS 2 with the Kids versus Aliens, I think that's the name of the full movie, was based on a segment from the second movie. And like I said, it is just kind of a shame that with VHS Viral, it still did have some, that's the third one, good creepy moments, but that's when you could tell they were going to start focusing more on effects than just things being really atmospheric and creepy. Even though that one does have one of my favorite segments because it has a segment that's just pure fun. It's the one with the kids who are skateboarders and then they fight a bunch of cultists or demons. That one was a blast. I really enjoyed that segment. I know a lot of people didn't like VHS Viral, but I think there was enough stuff in there for me to go, okay, this works. The wraparound segment is kind of absurd and silly, but unfortunately, I think my issue with the VHS series is like over time, the wraparound segments just aren't completely there. Now, I don't mean like in VHS 99 where there's not even a wraparound segment. I mean like it feels like the wraparound segment doesn't really connect as well with the actual shorts as the first two at least did. Because the first one was just about these criminals who break into this house, and this house is like owned by a serial killer or some serial killers, I can't remember exactly, forgive me. And he just has these disturbing, genuine tapes of basically snuff. And as these films go on, the wraparound segment has so little to do with it that it feels like they should have just did the 99 thing and just had no segment at all. Because here's the thing. With VHS 85 and beyond, I do like the wraparound segment as its own thing, but they barely connect to like why I'm watching these other films or these short segments. Because in VHS 85, they're making this monster watch these 80s tapes and starts to replicate them and things like that. But I feel as though that works. That would be better if it was its own segment with a different wraparound, if you know what I mean. Because here's the thing, I really did like that story. It was a really cool story, but I think it doesn't wrap things around. I keep saying that. I don't think it connects everything as well as they hoped. And with VHS Beyond, I'm a sucker for documentaries about extraterrestrial life or the paranormal or anything like that. And that's how that whole connecting story is. But maybe I wasn't paying attention enough. I watched the movie from start to finish. My eyes were glued on the screen because I actually really enjoy VHS Beyond, by the way. Because I think this one's the most just straight up fun out of all of them, in my opinion. The overall story, they kind of loosely tie each short with what they're saying before it happens, but I don't remember if this is like them showing evidence. Especially if you watch the last segment. It's called Stowaway. This one's great, by the way. It's made in part by Mike Flanagan, and Mike Flanagan is a genius. So if he has his name attached to it, you know you're in for something great. That's why I think that segment actually really holds its own. It's the one of the entire from the last few ones at least that goes back to what I liked. It was more atmospheric and creepy, unnerving, that type of stuff. There was some blood in it, but that wasn't really the focus. It was slow-moving, atmospheric, my type of horror. And the way it wraps up is just upsetting and depressing. Spoilers. And like I said, it's Mike Flanagan, so you know you're in for something great if you see that name attached to it. And I had no idea. Like, I don't research who made the shorts before I watch them. I tend to look that up afterwards. And when I saw his name, I was like, oh, hey, that's actually pretty cool. And Justin Long had something to do with another one of them. I forget which one. VHS Beyond had some actually really good, solid moments in it. Some of them, again, are going for more gore and effects than they are actual like scares and things like that. But is the segment called Good Boy? It's about this woman who these animal rights activists essentially not really break into her house, but they try to entrap her into like because she does taxidermy and things like that. And then she turns out to be an absolute psychopath and starts, spoilers, turning people into dogs. And that one, obviously there's some blood in it, but that wasn't really the focus. It was disturbing in the way people would have found Freaks from the 1930s. The way that movie ended, it's similar to that. I actually found myself very uncomfortable watching that movie. I don't get disturbed easy. I don't get disturbed by fiction because I know it's fake. But there was still something about that where I kind of just made it feel uncomfortable. Again, that one as well as the last one, Stowaway. Great segments. This is why I tell people I love VHS Beyond so much. And also the opening segment, Stork. That one was, again, a lot of fun. It's an action scene, not a horror scene. You have to know that going into it. And I can say this about some of the VHS movies. At a certain point, they stop being like, ooh, could these be real? I mean, obviously, we all know they're not real. But that was the thing about the first VHS. Is like, they kept things tame to a point where it's like, something slightly off. I mean, not so much with Siren, that segment, but it was still minimal to where your brain could go, oh my gosh, maybe. At a certain point in these movies, it does kind of go off rails. And you know what? It's Halloween time. I'm going to have some fun. So I'm okay with it. And like I said, I do wish they would do more genuinely scary and creepy stuff and not just go for pure splatter. Because I think that's another reason why people liked the one that took place in a sewer. The one with the, spoilers, rat god. Because again, that one, it's similar to Siren, to where obviously we're probably not going to believe that there's a humanoid rat in the sewers unless we're talking about the movie Rats, Night of Total Terror. But again, it's so minimal that when you see what happens, when it's all revealed, something in your head goes, who knows, maybe? And that's why that one's actually really good. It's slow and it's atmospheric and there's not a lot of blood and guts. But again, it's, like I said, the atmosphere to it. That's what makes it great. And then there's even the haunted house one, the one that takes place in a church. That one actually, when I first watched that one actually creeped me out. I liked it. I feel like, again, I'm sorry, I can't remember what these titles are called. But that one was really good. And then, like I said, the ones that are really effective are the ones that are most minimal. And some of these I can't remember if they're on the same VHS or not, is the one with the white supremacist group that are planning this huge terrorist attack. That one, well, the reason I like that one is this goes back to what I was talking about in the last video with shot on video horrors. It feels like you're watching something you were never meant to see. And that's exactly how this one's shot. It looks like it's shot on an old crummy camera that I could go down to my local either flea market or thrift store, buy it for $10 and then just shoot something. The reveal of it in the end of what's going on might be silly, but again, it's so tame throughout most of it that it just works. And that's why I liked that segment so much too. I know a lot of people sometimes say there's more misses than hits, but you know what? The more I think about VHS and a lot of the segments they have, I actually remember it's like, oh, I really like these. There's more ones I enjoy than ones I don't enjoy, if I'm going to be honest. Even if they're not like great quality, even if they're not that scary, I still enjoy them. Even if I wish there were more segments that were genuinely scary and creepy. Because, especially the other one, I believe it's from VHS 99. They're basically being voyeurs to their neighbor because she's really attractive. And then it all goes wrong in the end. Again, this one's more similar to Siren, where everything is minimal and then there's the reveal of what's actually happening. And that goes to my preferred less is more type horror. You slowly get the build up, then you get the reveal, and the reveal is just slightly unnerving, but unnerving enough to where you're kind of thinking about it to the back of your head. Of course, I don't believe Medusa is real, but if she is, that's probably how she would function in the real world. And again, there's just some segments that are just pure fun. I mean, To Hell and Back, that one's a blast. You know, the guy who actually directed Deadstream made that one, and it was really cool. You know, him and his friend get sacrificed during I think it was a New Year's Eve party. They go to hell, and then they have to find a way back. And I like the atmosphere of hell too in that one, because I think it's funny they actually managed to, when they died, they brought their tape to hell. That was funny. That was really funny. And again, the atmosphere of hell. It's dark, it's dingy, there's very few things going on. Like the Christian version of hell isn't fire and brimstone, it's very empty and very hollow feeling. So I like that aspect of it, because oddly enough, hell isn't used that much in film. And it was just a lot of fun. The demon effects were also pretty good. And that guy really knows how to use minimal stuff and make it work. So props to him. I like him a lot. Which one else did I like? Because, like, here's the thing. I say that, but I know exactly which one it was. It's the one where they have this game show, and then their daughter gets disabled, and then they capture the person that made the show and basically torture him. Again, that ties into I think, like I said, I can't remember if this is the actual title. It was called Good Boy or Not, where it's just unnerving and creepy. and disturbing in that way, where there is blood, there is gore, but that's not what stays. It's the atmosphere of it. And then there was another game show-esque one where she wanted to make a wish, and then the wish, everything goes wrong then. Oh, man, I'm starting to remember these, and my brain is going, I really liked these segments, but I can't remember. Here's the thing, I don't remember if that one and this one were both connected. Give me 1 second. So that segment is actually called Ozzy's Dungeon, and for whatever reason, my brain cut it into 2 different segments, even though they were the exact same one. So, and keep in mind, I haven't seen that one since it came out, so forgive me for screwing that up. For whatever reason, my brain were thinking it was 2 separate things because the atmosphere doesn't change, but the set completely changes from that to that. I'm just really dumb, apparently. And the more I think about VHS 99, because that's the one it's from, the more I remember, oh, this one had some really, really good segments in it. Because there was even Suicide Bid, which I just saw because I looked up. And I remember that one, because here's the thing, I was thinking that was from another movie. It's about these sorority girls. They bury this girl alive, and they said they were going to be met by this monster or whatever. And then she basically gets genuinely buried alive, and then she does meet that corpse, and then she gets payback in the end. That one is good because it's really claustrophobic, and again, I'm just a moron, and I completely forgot that was from this movie series. I'm thinking it was from something else. I don't know why, but that one, the more I think about this series, the more I'm like having these realizations that, wow, I really did have a lot of fun watching these movies. Again, not all of them are genuinely scary, and some of them are just splatter flicks, but even VHS Viral, which is the one that everyone says is the worst one, it still had that really cool segment of the skateboarders, and while the wraparound ultimately didn't connect as well as it probably could have, it still was good. It's its own good isolated horror story. And I think VHS Viral had a bonus, at least on the DVD, bonus segment that wasn't a found footage thing. It was someone made a short film and made it for it. Oh, I thought the Suicide Bid one was one of the ABCs of Death movies. Oh, I am so sorry, ladies and gentlemen. I can't believe I messed that up. But when it comes to VHS, I think my least favorite one is, I don't like to talk about things I dislike. I don't dislike it, but my least favorite one is probably 85, because I think that was the one I was most disappointed by. Here's the thing, like I said, the wraparound segment, as much as I like it as its own segment, it doesn't tie as well to the individual stories as it probably could have. If it was its own isolated thing, if it was its own segment within that, I think that would have been good, and it had either they got rid of the wraparound segment altogether or it had a different one. That would have probably made it a lot better for me. But the other thing that disappointed me about it is these obviously are not 80s cameras. They're modern digital cameras that have a filter on them. But I say that, but there's still I still liked the segments a lot. The opening one where they're getting shot up on their boat. At first I thought it was going to be an homage to Creepshow 2, the one with the blob creature, but then they start getting just sniped off. And then this is one of the few ones that has a follow-up tie-in segment to one of the segments earlier in the movie. And I thought that was really cool. I wasn't expecting that. They show what happened, why it happened, and then they show the repercussions of that. Like I said, I was disappointed by how it was shot, but these moments are still really cool. And then they have one that directly ties into Black Phone and Black Phone 2. I don't know if the characters in this segment appear in in the Black Phone 2, but to know they actually made a segment that is canon to a movie that I love, Black Phone. That's one of my favorite horror movies of the last few years. That's just awesome. Again, it's clearly not actually 80s cameras, and the plot is kind of absurd because it's about his dreams are being recorded. Gunther's dreams are being recorded. And that's how they reveal who the killer is. Like I said, it's absurd, but I still liked it. And that's the thing with VHS, is there's much more that I like than I dislike. And here's the thing, I don't think I dislike anything about these movies. There's things I wish were better, obviously, because you're not going to get a grand slam or a home run every single time. Sometimes you have a swing and a miss, sometimes you just have to bunt. And even for the bad ones, I think most of them are bunts than strikeouts, thankfully. And like I said, I haven't seen VHS Halloween yet, but I heard what the wraparound story for that is. And again, it's about like this soda company trying to make the perfect soda. It's called Phantom Cola or whatever. And again, that's like one of those things where I go, that's a good short segment for a VHS movie, but does it work as a wraparound? How do they tie it in with the other shorts? That's the thing. I don't know how it does. Maybe it does it so well that I'm like, oh, I'm completely wrong. I hope I'm wrong, by the way. I hope that the wraparound segment is so effective at it that I go, I can't believe I even questioned them. But again, it feels like, because that's my issue with these last couple of movies, is that they have good wraparound segments, but they're good in their own right. And again, with VHS Beyond, I could have misunderstood it, and they were actually showing like, oh, here's documented evidence of what was going on. Again, with the last one, I don't know how accurate that could be with it, if you know how that one ends. But if that's the biggest issue I have, then this is actually a better horror series I think people give it credit for. I watch them almost every Halloween. At least I try to catch the new one every Halloween. These two, I haven't had Shudder in a couple of years now, so I haven't gotten a chance to watch these yet. So the fact that these were on sale was actually really good. And that's what I'm really happy about. I like VHS. I hope they keep making them. Maybe take a year off, I would say, from this one. So that way, VHS Christmas, there's an idea. I mean, Christmas horror is a huge thing. Or have a VHS movie that has segments from each individual holiday. And here's how I can do it. It's a family opening up Christmas gifts, and they all get a tape. And each tape is a disturbing event. And here's the thing what I wanted to do. I wanted to kind of go back to basics, where it's more grounded, brutal, eerie, atmospheric stuff, less splatter. I think that would I'm a genius. VHS Holiday Edition. Shudder, hit me up. I'm your next big idea man. Anyways, guys, I gotta go actually now watch my horror movie and go Halloween shopping, go to ministry, and then at the end of the day, watch an episode of The Haunting of Hill House. I almost said The Legend of Hill House because that's the book I'm reading. The Legend of Hill House is what I'm reading, or Hill House. Anyways, guys, I gotta call it for now, but like I said, my videos aren't made in continuity order anymore, so peace.